Famcast Media, bitch.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, persons of all ages, welcome to the most exclusive group in the wrestling community. And now, your hosts, first, from Guadalajara, Puerto Rico, Macho Rodriguez, and his tag team partner from Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, God's gift, Tyler Taylor!
¿Cómo estamos, mi gente? Welcome to another edition of Must Love Wrestling. I'm in a little bit of a different location today, but that's okay. I just wanted to come on here and give you an AEW Collision review because the last 30 minutes of the show were fire. Let me tell you something. We got the ability to watch MJF have quite possibly his best wrestling match that we've ever seen. And that's not hyperbole. That is a fact. That man went out there and for 30 minutes tore the house down with Kenny Omega, but we will get to that. Let's start off with the beginning of the show. It clearly felt like the intention of Collision was to get Jay White to just have a quick win by pinfall. Now, unfortunately, we saw him go over quickly on AR Fox, which isn't great because it looks like AR Fox has kind of been relegated back to being enhancement talent. I like the idea of AR Fox being used as often as possible, but it just feels like ever since his whole betrayal of Orange Cassidy, they haven't really done much with him. Jay White continues to show that he is 100% the future of the business. He's the future of the company itself. It looks great to watch him out there and to watch him just kill it the way he's been doing it. Now, what I didn't like was that just like with Monday Night Raw, we had lots of backstage segments. So we have a backstage segment of Acclaim talking to the camera, and it just kind of felt like they haven't really done much with the Acclaim. Let's look at what they've done in the past. They've had two shows where they actually were on 0 hour defending their trios championship. How can you have a champion and have them open your show, not even on the pay-per-view, but on 0 hour? That's usually relegated for bathroom breaks and getting snacks ready. It didn't really feel like they're using the Acclaimed properly. Now, this is just a constant issue that we have with AEW in terms of how they utilize talent. But 62 days as champion, and they haven't really had a feud. They haven't had one team that they've wrestled multiple times. It just feels like they just put the titles on them to just take advantage of the fact that the Acclaimed right now is one of the most over tag teams or trios in the business. We do have the boys versus the Guns. We have Bullet Club Gold versus like Dalton Castle. And it really felt like, why was that something that we were going to do? Why did the Guns need to be used in this spot here? I understood the whole logic of having Jay White be used first because he's obviously the focus of the group. But then you just have, Billy Gunn's kids go out there and they work this match. This doesn't really accentuate what they're able to do. I feel like they've been put in these squash matches far too often, guys. We need to start seeing them bring out more of their stuff. We need to start seeing them wrestle longer matches. If not, they're going to be relegated to the Goldberg era, where Goldberg is just working these 8-hour matches or these 8-minute matches. I apologize. And then when he has the opportunity to go out there to have a lengthy match, nothing. It doesn't feel great. It feels almost like they don't trust that these two workers can go out there and turn a great match. What I do like is the CJ Perry storyline and how it's just furthered Miro. Because I know the intention is for Miro to squash anybody that his wife, CJ Perry, is trying to push as her next client, which will inevitably mean that Miro will be her client and it'll be husband and wife. And hopefully, the hope is there, people, that Miro and CJ Perry can reach the heights that they once reached as Rusev and Lana when they were in the WWE. Now, I don't think that they'll be coming out down the ramp in a tank and they'll be doing all the Bulgarian brute stuff, but we might actually get Miro in a title picture. We might have him feuding with top guys. That to me is 100% the goal here. And I think that that's the goal for AEW because he looks like a star. Now, let's talk about the first women's match of the night. Abaddon versus Shida. Listen, I'm not too familiar with Abaddon. I saw her match with Britt Baker, and I liked what I saw, and I love her horror element. She's kind of brought like the Kana from Japan to the United States, and she's done really well with that. But this really felt like a showcase for Shida, and Shida looks phenomenal. She is a 1,000% star. As the AEW Women's Champion, you know that she is the face of the company. She's the first 3-time AEW Women's Champion. But what I do love is that we're getting segments of Toni Storm coming out. So even in a women's match, we're having extra women added to the product. That to me felt very good. It felt like the idea is for Toni Storm to quite possibly be the next 3-time AEW Women's Champ. But as I've said before, and I'll say again, just because you're in a lengthy feud, just because you're in a good feud, does not mean that you need to win that feud. We saw this with Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura. We saw this with Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. Sometimes you just need a good foe. That does not mean that you're going to win the feud and you're going to win the title. Moving on from there, we have Samoa Joe versus Rhett Titus. And now this once again felt like a squash match, but let's be honest. This was designed to put Joe in that stratosphere of he's one of the next challengers for MJF. He's the TV champ or the Ring of Honor television champ, and he's showcasing his ability. He looks great. I mean, Titus took the loss like he was supposed to. It was just a relatively short match. So we go to break, and when we get back, we have Claudio Castagnoli telling the world that Bryan Danielson has sustained another injury. This time, he broke his orbital bone, and they don't know when he's going to be back. So he's having surgery immediately, and it sucks because that match between the four of them was stellar. I do love how Okada keeps trolling Bryan Danielson, so hopefully maybe that's like the last feud we get for Bryan Danielson before he hangs it up for good. Another thing I really appreciated was the fact that the brittle Bryan thing has become relevant, and almost to the point where I feel like one day Nigel McGuinness is going to be on commentary and he's going to undo his vest and just have a brittle Bryan shirt on. Now, don't quote me on that. That's not rumors or speculation. That's just my honest opinion. I feel like that would help further the whole Bryan versus Nigel thing. And if Bryan's last match, he intends it to be one-on-one against Nigel McGuinness, I mean, I think Nigel has one more match in him. We've seen Edge return from his neck injury. We've seen Paige return from her neck injury. We saw Bryan Danielson return. We saw Christian return. We don't know if Big E's going to return, but it's 2023. We have a great opportunity to have these guys work possibly their last match. Now, here's a match that I thought was super underrated. It was Ricky Starks versus Dax Hardwood. Now, I'm not the biggest FTR fan, as I've said in the past, but Ricky Starks is a star. And I love the fact that he gets this win. So not only did Dax and Cash lose the tag team titles to Big Bill and Ricky Starks, but now you're having Ricky Starks beat them one-on-one. It keeps Ricky in the limelight. It keeps the tag titles meaning more, almost like he could do it by himself if he wanted to, but then he has Big Cass with him. Or Big Bill, I apologize, because he was Big Cass in WWE. What I loved was the quote. You hear that, folks? The door is closing on FTR. Let's think about that. Did FTR decide that they wanted to leave the company? From what we heard, it was their choice to drop the AEW tag titles. They were hoping to do that so they could stay further away from the Young Bucks. So when we inevitably get this match between FTR and the Young Bucks, it possibly means more. The lights go out and it shows Julia Hart. She raises her arms and drops the light, and the lights go out. And once the lights come back up, we see House of Black, and they're surrounding Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Then they turn their attention to FTR. Guys, then LFI hits the scene. I mean, we have a four corners match being scripted right in front of our eyes right now. And it makes the AEW Tag Team Championships that much more exciting. The brawl kicks off and, everybody is in and out of the ring. LFI and FTR definitely look like the best. Like they came out the best. But that's the way it's supposed to look. Backstage, we have an Andrade interview. And Lexi asks him if there's anything affecting him. And he says, I'm just a businessman. And this is his business and nobody else's. Now, she's very strange in her response. She says she's not sure what that means. And I feel like that's something that speaks to training and the lack thereof of AEW commentators and their interviewers. You're supposed to be able to interview people and put them in the right position by her almost making Andrade look dumb. I didn't really appreciate the way it came off, but maybe I'm just reading too much into it. We have Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale. They're being interviewed with Sky Blue also there. And Statlander says they need to settle whatever's going on between the two of them. Willow says that she's felt tension between them and it keeps getting stronger. Ever since they both got misted, something has been getting worse with Sky. And now that Julia is back, perhaps they should address it. Now, what an unbelievable setup that they've had right here. Because now, not only do we have Shida, Toni Storm, that's one feud, but now we have Willow and Chris and Sky Blue and Julia Hart. I mean, AEW is doing a really good job of getting the women out there too. And it's working really well, guys. I love exactly the way it's working. It's showcasing the women in a way that AEW hasn't done since Britt Baker was the top star. And the best part about this is she's not even in the limelight right now. After that, we have Claudio versus Tracy Williams, another relatively quick match. He hits it with a big uppercut and he wins the match. I mean, it was a true squash match, guys. That's what it was. There's 3 squash matches on an AEW Collision. Felt like, why would I tune in for this? This is the problem that they have. And it sucks because we're led into the main event. But before the main event, we have Samoa Joe talking to MJF backstage saying that he needs a friend and Joe could be that for him. He just wants a championship match that he deserves. But he wouldn't put an ultimatum on him. But he finds himself in trouble tonight. Just scream his name and his friend will be there. Good luck against a dangerous opponent. And I thought, wow, what a great way for Samoa Joe to insert himself in this feud. But now, for probably the most lengthy part of my comments here, MJF versus Kenny Omega was so much more than I ever expected. MJF is one of those guys that needs to be led through a match, but he showcased himself. He did a lot yesterday. He hung in there with Kenny Omega, with the bout machine, with the top star in the company. Say what you will, Kenny Omega is the top star in AEW. It is his record that MJF is looking to break. It is his record that MJF is also looking to break in terms of having the best matches in a year. Kenny Omega looks like an absolute star, and it looks like he can still hang with anybody. It doesn't look like he's dropped at all. If anything, it feels like when he tags with other people or when he's doing these 3 or 4-way matches or these 6-person tags, I feel like they take away the Kenny Omega that we've all grown to love. I'm very excited for what happens because I really feel like Kenny Omega versus MJF can be a feud that we have. Maybe, just maybe, Kenny Omega is the guy that takes the title off of Max. Now, do I hope that's Jay White? Absolutely. Do I think that it's going to be Jay White? That I don't know. That's my hope because I feel like he's done so much and AEW has done so much with him. But it seems like AEW has made it their absolute certainty that Max is going to be that 2007 version of John Cena. He will not lose a match. So I do not think that even with the added element of Bullet Club Gold, of Juice Robinson, I don't think it matters. I think Max retains the AEW World Championship. But you let me know what you think, guys. But in terms of watching this match, enjoying this match, I recommend that everybody get on their DVR. Everybody try to find a stream and go back and watch this full 30-minute match because it was fire. I'm not going to break down and dissect the match one by one, move by move, and hold by hold. But what I will say is it is an absolute wonder to watch. It quite possibly could be the best television match that AEW has had since Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. And I want to remind people, because a lot of people have had comments and discourse as to why this match was free on television. Mi gente, deja explicarte algo. This is a television company. They need you to watch their TV so that way they can get pay-per-views. Remember that first. They have 3 shows and they need you to watch all 3. That's why we had a big feud like Santana and Ortiz on Rampage. That's why we have Dynamite with all of their goings on. And then we have MJF versus Kenny Omega. Now, MJF has wrestled a lot. And that is in large part because CM Punk has missed so much time and because he's been out and he was let go. So they needed their next big star to step up. Bryan doesn't want to be a full-timer anymore. Kenny Omega is not utilized properly. We are having a great feud right now with Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. But really, what else is out there? What else is going on? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is one of my shorter videos, but I had to talk about this. I wanted to talk about Kenny Omega versus MJF because for once, finally, I'm impressed with MJF. And I'm excited as to what's going to happen next. Until next time, mi gente, I'm out.